For over 2,000 years, Japan has lived off the backbone of one food. This little guy. This is rice balls, or onigiri, or omusubi, or nigiri meshi. There's a lot of names for it. And that's because of Japanese mythology and social hierarchies, which just shows how deeply ingrained this food is in Japanese history. But now most people call it onigiri. I wanted to talk about this humble food today because a lot of people outside of Japan might not really know much about it. I mean, they had to replace it with a sandwich in the American release of Pokemon.
It's a giant sandwich.
Or call it a jelly donut.
These donuts are great. Jelly-filled are my favorite.
Most people who do know onigiri just really think of it as a quirky snack that's not that interesting. But it is interesting. Onigiri is one of Japan's most important foods. It's in markets and convenience stores everywhere. It's in school lunches and the most common thing people eat when they're on the go. It's a staple here. Onigiri has a storied tale, so I want to show you how it's evolved over the years to keep playing an important role in Japanese society. Oh, and also how that role might be changing again. This little guy is tuna and mayonnaise, which sounds like a weird mix, but it actually works pretty well. So the role of onigiri today is pretty much food on the go. When you're traveling long train journeys, road trips, or hiking, a few of these serve as a pretty good lunch. They're easy to pack and they have enough carbs to get you through the day. But the onigiri wasn't always meant for this. This food that you can find pretty much anywhere used to actually be a ceremonial gift from the elite. During the Heian period, onigiri was called tonjiki, and it was a ritual food instead of one for convenience. It was made with sticky rice and wrapped in bamboo leaves, unlike today where it's made with normal rice and nori, which is a dried seaweed. Back then, royal and noble households would sometimes hold special events in appreciation of their servants and present their best servants with onigiri as a thank you gift. But a few generations later, it started appearing as military rations for samurai in eastern Japan. These onigiri rations were often filled with umeboshi, or pickled plum. And this is where onigiri with certain specific fillings started to really spread across the country. It's easy to carry around and the rice is filling enough. This convenience the samurai took advantage of started becoming popular, and by the Edo period in the 1600s, onigiri started popping up in bento boxes. This was around the time Japan was becoming a more united country and travelers were moving across it. Many of them would pack onigiri with them for their journeys. But the food wasn't really standardized yet. Japan was still pretty feudal at this point, so onigiri everywhere was different. Some were wrapped in bamboo leaves, some had umeboshi, and some were wrapped in nori, this dried seaweed. It took the next 200 years for onigiri to start looking like this. This began with the Meiji Restoration, when the US asked Japan to open the country and stop having it be closed. So Japan opened up, modernized, and started building trains, and more trains everywhere. Around the time where trains were starting to take over the country, a Japanese hotel started serving onigiri bentos at Utsunomiya Station. They called this bento ekiben, a mix of two words, eki for train station and ben for bento. This ekiben had 2 onigiri, filled with umeboshi and still wrapped in bamboo leaves. So people were now taking onigiri with them onto trains that took them all over the country. A few years later, a school in northern Japan started feeding onigiri in school lunches to impoverished kids, this time filled with salmon. And a few more years later, a tempura restaurant started serving onigiri with tempura inside. And then 7-Eleven makes this. It's called the pariko film. With Japan's industrialization, a lot of onigiri are now made by machine and sold at convenience stores. And they're a perfect snack or easy lunch. They're cheap, gluten-free, and vegan-friendly. And once you know what filling you like, they taste pretty good. Okay, I know I just called them an easy lunch, but I have to be honest, they are a pain in the ass to try to unwrap. Let me see if I can do this right. So you have to rip the middle, I think, and then you pull it out by the side, right? And then it's supposed to look like that. It's a lot of rice. I didn't think this through. But yeah, it's alright. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. And it definitely gets better once you get deeper into it, because that's where all the filling is. But they're now very commercial and are honestly kind of boring. I mean, this is cheap and easy, but it lacks the human element and the history that earlier versions carried. Which is where we are today, where onigiri is super important to Japanese society, yet it doesn't have the same excitement around it like sushi or ramen. Because now, most onigiri are produced on an assembly line and not made by a craftsperson anymore. But Japan is trying to change that. I'm currently headed to a place called Onigiri Bongo. It's one of the few remaining onigiri restaurants in Tokyo, and it's similarly set up like a sushi restaurant, letting you see the cooks make onigiri and witness the craft. This shop apparently has like 50 different kinds of onigiri, so I'm pretty excited to see what they have. Just look at it inside. That's crazy. That's really beautiful. All of these onigiris are so good. These are like the best onigiris I've ever had. Yeah, the filling is just so generous. It's actually really crazy. Yeah, definitely. I've never really seen onigiri in this light before. Wow. Good. But that restaurant is more of a window into tradition. Something you definitely should experience to learn and love the dish. But onigiri might be beginning to evolve again and change its role once more. And I want to see what that looks like. At the moment, there's a new trend of onigiri that's been popping up called onigirazu. While there's a lot of shops that don't mass-produce onigiri by machine, onigiri still has this image of just being something that you eat for convenience and not because it's really good. So now there's a new version of onigiri that's been spreading around the internet over the past few years to try to make onigiri hip and cool and look flavorful again. So it's called onigirazu, and it's a much larger onigiri with a more complex set of ingredients inside, and it's even what some people have been calling like a rice sandwich. Onigirazu is usually intended to be made at home, but there is one shop here in Asakusa that sells onigirazu. It's called Tanagokoro. It's called Tanagokoro, right? Tanagokoro. Tanagokoro. You know what? I'm just gonna put the name on the screen.
どちらからいらっしゃったんですか？
アメリカ。
アメリカですか？
はい、そうです。でも今日本に住んでいます。
あ、そうですか。YouTube かなんか見ていただいたんですか？
そうです。大丈夫ですか？
ああ、大丈夫です。開けてください、ぜひ。
Okay, so this one is filled with cheese and tarako. Tarako is a cod roe, I think, right? Cod roe? So let's give this one a try. There's a lot more flavor than I thought. A little bit salty, but it was nice. I like it. Alright, this is the one that I'm most excited for. This one's unagi. Alright, I've never had unagi in an onigiri before, let alone unagi with cheese. So let's see how this turns out. I like it. Yeah. You don't really taste the cheese, but otherwise, it's not really much different from an unagi don. It's just much easier to eat. But it's cool. It is an onigiri, but it also doesn't feel like you're eating an onigiri. But yeah, that's onigirazu. And to be completely honest, because the shop's in a really touristy area, I was actually pretty worried that it would be underwhelming or just not be good. But onigirazu is pretty nice, or at least that shop is. I mean, at the end of the day, it tastes just like onigiri. The only difference is the shape. And to be fair, I never really thought about onigiri other than just that thing to eat when you're on the go. But the story of onigiri is kind of romantic to me. In all its forms, it's always been food for the people, whether it being a gift to servants, school lunches for kids, or food for hikers and farmers. Onigiri has allowed itself to be transformed throughout the centuries to become whatever everyday people need it to be. And I don't think a lot of people give it the love it deserves. I definitely didn't. So here's to 2,000 more years. This is good. This one's the best one, actually. Yeah, I should eat this one first. This one's the best one. I look like a weirdo holding 2 onigiri in the middle of the street. This is a good one. You want to try it?